Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Healthy and Wealthy and Wise podcast, hosted by yours truly, Misty Magdalena Grace, also known as Magical Mags. I am an abundance alchemist, helping you alchemize fear into love, pain into purpose, scarcity or lack into abundance, so that you can live your best life, your best health, your best wealth, your best relationships by trusting your best wisdom within. Please enjoy the show, like and subscribe, and leave a review if you see value in this amazing show. And feel free to stay in till the end. You may have a surprise gift waiting for you on the other side of this episode. All right. Back for more. This is my second show of the day. If you have been following me, this is my 5-year anniversary of Healthy and Wealthy and Wise and all of its iterations, and just super excited to have my friend Shana James here today to talk about relationships. As you heard from the intro, we're all about health and wealth, and even though it's not in the title, relationships are at the core of that. Relationships impact your health every day. Relationships impact your wealth every day, and relationships impact your wisdom. Through my own journey of divorce and loss and abandonment, wounding, and this spiritual awakening on this planet right now, it's really caused me to look in the mirror. That's what relationships do, right? They cause us to look in the mirror of what we get to heal, the mirrored wounding. And I know that's been a huge part of my last 5 years. And so I just had an episode, but if this is your first time, I just want to welcome you to Healthy and Wealthy and Wise. If you see value in the show today, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're on my YouTube channel or on iTunes, and then share if you're on Facebook, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on YouTube. Just grab that share button and send this out to someone you know and care about who may be struggling with relationships, sacred sexuality, even just that most important relationship, right? Our relationship with ourselves and the divine within. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce, I think this is the first time, actually, Shana, I've ever had a relationship coach or expert on. So just letting everyone know a little bit about you, and then I'll turn it over to you. Shana is the creator and host of the Man Alive podcast. So yes, we are going to talk about men today, not only women. She's had over 300 episodes and recently started a new podcast, which I love, called Practicing Love, Have the Best Love and Sex of Life After 40. And she also has a TEDx talk entitled What 1,000 Men's Tears Reveal About the Crisis Between Men and Women. She's also an author and just all sorts of beautiful things. I was just on her show and so excited to have you here today. I'd love for you to share your story and how you got to be where you are today.
Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on your anniversary. So exciting. Yeah, how I got to be here. So if I go way back, I will say that my parents' relationship really had a big influence on my life, because the way they communicate and connect is very painful in my eyes. And so I felt like they sort of catapulted me into the either I am going to never be in a relationship if that's what it has to look like, or I'm going to figure out how else to do this. And like you, I've been through a divorce and, been on this path for a long time. I've been a relationship coach and dating coach for 20 years. But about 20-ish years ago, I got to be a part of this amazing team of women, where there was a men's workshop. And so the men would come in to help, other men would support them to get grounded and to get clear and find their own confidence. And then the women would come in on the last day and we would give them honest and loving feedback. And so it wasn't advice. It wasn't like we were telling them how to be. It was, we were interacting with them and letting them know, here's when I feel close to you. Here's when I feel pushed away. Here's when trust is building. Here's when attraction is breaking, like with love. And a lot of men had never received that. So I, went on from there to create the women's version of the workshop where women got to get honest and loving feedback from men, and just many iterations over the years. But what I really love is being an ally for both, men and women, supporting men to understand and translate why we as women sometimes do what we do, and vice versa. I've gotten to see behind the masks and facades of many men, more than 1,000 men, and really getting to bring that back to women in heterosexual relationships and say, here's what's going on here.
Wow. There's so much wisdom there. I definitely will be sharing all of your links and your books and TEDx talk inside of the show notes. So I just want to put that out there for people. I've got to ask, what did you learn from your divorce and your relationship journey? You and I have that in common. I know I've learned so much.
So
And
much.
a lot of times women and men can be really bitter, and it makes them bitter instead of better. And I know that you have transcended a lot of healing and learning from that. So that I'd like to start there, if you don't mind, with what
Sure.
wisdom you can share with women, especially divorced women or separated, breakups, even if they weren't married.
Yes. I think one of the biggest lessons or commitments that came out of my relationship, that my divorce, was knowing that there are many different parts of me, and that I actually can consciously choose which part of me wants to show up in a relationship dynamic. It doesn't mean I don't have shitty thoughts in my head. It doesn't mean I'm not terrified or disgusted or any of those things. But it does mean, I don't know if you know the Viktor Frankl quote that I always botch, but it's so beautiful. Basically, it's like this idea that between stimulus and response, we have a choice. And for many people, it seems like, something goes in and then we just react. But you can actually slow it down and, commit to. For me, the commitment ended up being, I'm not actually going to speak until I can forward connection, or I can, bring us closer to being connected. Because in my marriage, there was a lot of shit that came out of my mouth that, I threatened the end of the relationship, and I was just emotionally ungrounded, and all of that would come out. And then my partner didn't feel heard or understood. And, we would go down these downward spirals. So my commitment really became, I'm going to be conscious in this dynamic.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, and Carl Jung, make the unconscious conscious. Unfortunately, and I work with women all the time, and they talk about ruptures. Sometimes those ruptures in the relationship can make you stronger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the relationship sticks, which is a good segue into what we can probably talk about next. But ultimately, there are times where it's supposed to end, right? These karmic souls, we crisscross each other's lives through karmic contracts and Akashic records and lessons, and so much pain can lead to purpose, which is one of my favorite statements now. Look at you. You're a relationship and dating coach, and you have these amazing gifts that, you birthed from your womb and created.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So when you said you talked to 1,000 men, and they took off the masks, which I think most of us had fathers and father figures, and patriarchy, where there's a lot of masks. So I'm love to hear what you learned, like the top maybe 3 things when the men took off the masks. What did they reveal?
Yeah. So when I'm coaching men, I would say a big part of the revelation is the humanity, right? Just how they are scared, how they don't feel like they are allowed to, or it's not allowed. It's like they could show vulnerability, but most of them feel like they're going to get smacked down in some way, whether it's they're going to be left. I was dating a man after my divorce who told me he had never been with a woman and cried with a woman who hadn't left him soon after that. And, there are always many, many sides to a story. Who knows? And people can bring emotion in a way that's just dumping and needing saving and trying to fix. So I don't know exactly what happened there, but what I do know is that he was an incredibly strong and powerful and clear and loving man who also had the reality of being human, and I just spent a couple days in the hospital with my partner, and we had so many conversations about the fear of letting each other in on our fears and what was going on. And You know, it's just I think the main thing that I've seen is how human men are, and that there's so much good intention and so much wanting for others, at least the men who have come to me. And that the pain is what creates the unconsciousness or those actions that we're like, why the hell would you do something like that? You know, or yeah. So I think that that's the big one.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what you said. You said so many good things, and the stimulus and the whole like reaction, we'll
Yeah.
call it, once we slow it down through expanded consciousness, which we talked a lot about on the last episode, um, being able to be present with your emotion, hold your inner child, to hold your younger or whatever part of you is asking for attention instead of projecting it, taking out on that, even if it's not your partner, it could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be
Totally.
someone who pisses you off in traffic. The road rage, all of that's just a reaction, and bypassing what really needs to be looked at, and looking in the mirror, of course. So do you have any advice, any tips on if someone is in a relationship and they're triggered, what do you tell them to do to help slow that reaction down?
Yeah. First, I say breathe. You know, it's one of those simple things, but it's like, okay, usually if we're reacting, we're not breathing. We're just launching right into whatever that is, whatever our belief or our attack or our blaming, shaming. You know, the curiosity is another thing I talk about, is to be willing to be curious about your own thoughts and your own assumptions, and know that we could be having the same conversation with the same words and actually be having two different conversations, right? So if you can actually slow down and get curious and ask questions like, what did you mean by that? Or, I'm telling myself a story that means you don't love me or you're not attracted to me, but ultimately I really want to understand what you're trying to tell me. Really, so slowing down, getting curious, breathing, and a huge part of the book I wrote called Honest Sex is getting more vulnerable, like going to those deeper layers, right? And so there's a part in there that it says, it's never about the laundry or the dishes or even the bank account. It's about whether or not we feel understood and seen and supported. And so if you're starting to have a conflict about some of those surface things, ask yourself, what is really going on here? And what do I really need to talk about with my partner? And if I feel too nervous or scared to have that conversation, what's going on there, right?
That's beautiful. Seek first to understand, and there's always something going on underneath it. I love that you talked about having the best love and sex of life after 40, because I tell people all the time, there's no such thing as a midlife crisis. It just means all of your chakras are open and developed and maybe struggling or blocked. And you're finally realizing like, oh my God, I've become like my mom or my dad, which is what I said I never wanted to do. And so
And who am I actually? Like,
yes, is
oh,
this, yeah. Is
yeah,
this my stuff, or is
yeah,
this mom and dad stuff? Or is this, as you know, I'm passionate about ancestral and past life trauma.
yes.
We're carrying all of this stuff. On top of that, add in societal expectations. Man's got to pay for everything. Woman's, place is in the kitchen and, making babies and all that bullshit, right? So do you work with some of those paradigms inside of your book, your podcast, or with your clients?
Yeah. And ultimately helping people get clear about, okay, what do I really want? What is most important to me? What do I value? What has me feel loved? There's a lot of conversations I have, especially when working with couples around, how would you know if you are being loved? What does it feel like? What does it look like? Right. Because I can say to you, I want to feel more loved, or I want to feel more connected to you. And
Mhm.
oftentimes in the workshop, I think it was the women's workshop, where with the men would come in and a woman would be like, I want to feel more connected. And the man was like, okay, tell me how, tell me what you want. Cause it's different for every woman. It's usually different for every moment. I talk about sex as a concrete way to understand some of these dynamics. And so if you're being touched in a way that you don't like, and you kind of just are like, all right, it'll pass, right? Then you end up having these experiences where you're not connected, your partner doesn't know who you are or
Mm.
what you like and how to make it better for you next time. And I know so many, myself included, I know so many strong, powerful women who are like, yeah, I don't know. It's just, it feels hard to get the words out, right? It feels hard to say, especially because it's not horrible. It's just maybe not awesome, you know? So it's painful. I had a lover once who we played this game where it was like, okay, if something isn't amazing, then we're speaking up about it, right? In the middle of whatever we were doing, in the middle of lovemaking, it was like,
Yes.
how do we actually say so that, because it's such a tiny shift sometimes to go from not very good or fine and pleasant to like ecstatic. And if we're not speaking up and feeling confident enough to get those words out, then we're missing all of those opportunities.
1,000%. And oh my gosh, I have a autoimmune disease in my throat. And I was saying in my last episode, when I launched this podcast 5 years ago, I was scared shitless, like the imposter syndrome, being seen and being heard
Yeah.
in such a, like, I guess, professional public forum.
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't sleep. I was shaking, and same
I
thing,
have that too. I
like
mean,
the fear of public speaking, the fear of speaking up during sex, because sex is so taboo, so challenging. Like, I would have never talked about sex on my podcast 5 years ago, heck, maybe not even 3 years ago. And now I'm talking about self pleasure. I've had people bring up vibrators, it's like we need to talk about this more, especially as couples, right? Because we can't read each other's minds, and our parents probably didn't teach us a whole lot.
yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite tools in the book is talking about the debrief, which is post sex at
Ah,
some point, whether it's, some people like to do it right away. Some people like to do it the next day. Some people
yeah.
schedule a time to check in, but it's like, okay, what was amazing about that? What would I have wanted more of? Because you could say, what would I want less of? But I think it goes better to say, what would I want more of? And
Mhm.
then, what was something vulnerable that you didn't feel like you could tell me then, but you're going to tell me now? Because otherwise, I think so many people are just hoping that their sex life will get better over time. And let's expand that to beyond sex, right? We're just hoping that our relationship will feel more connected, more intimate, more vital, more exciting, all of those things. If we're not actually talking about it, we're hoping that it's going to happen instead of really creating it to happen.
Amen. Yeah, it's a two-way street on so many levels. You got to ask for what you want. And I know for me, a lot of it, because I grew up in the church and didn't have a lot of education about it, about sex in general, like to explore through self pleasure, to understand even my own body and my own needs and what I really want. I
Yeah,
don't know if you talk about that with your clients, if it's even comfortable for you to go there. I don't know if you figuring out the relationship with self, know
yeah,
thyself,
yeah,
so that you can ask for what you want, because the only way we can really know is either through past experiences or maybe getting to know ourselves and our bodies and our needs better.
totally. I think it's so important. And I think that, if I really look back on my history, I have a lot of, experience in Tantra and these workshops that were called orgasmic meditation and all kinds of different explorations. And that was me getting to know my body. And, I think that this fits for you too. It's not just getting to know my body, it's getting to know my soul and the openings, right? The body is an opening to that soul connection also. So if we know ourselves on that layer, then we get to open the door into these deeper and deeper layers.
Amen. And this is a great segue. Two things I want to mention. So in let me see, it's 2 o'clock right now, Pacific time, give or take, at 4 p.m. Pacific. I do have my first Tantra guest, and his name is Scotty O standing for orgasm. So we're gonna go there really deeply with him. So this was like a teaser, a little foreplay into that action later.
Perfect. Foreplay is great.
So just letting anyone and everyone know, if you're not watching the lives and my double header, triple, quadruple header today, celebrating my anniversary, you can check that out, Scotty O podcast. But anyway, we know Mary Magdalene. You and I have that connection, and she was the ultimate tantric teacher, the sex magic of Isis. She was trained by the best in the temples of Egypt. It was about women teaching other women through their own bodies, their own needs, so that they could communicate that with men. Her and Yeshua practicing Kundalini Shakti, Kundalini Yoga, the Magdalene manuscripts. And since it's Magdalene Day, let's maybe honor her a little bit. Is there anything that you want to share that's on your heart about that? Hyros Gamos union.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, what is so inspiring is intimacy, right? Like truly being known, truly having the sense that your partner has your back and wants to cherish you and wants to bring pleasure and opening together, Yeah, and opening to this spontaneity. Like my partner and I were sitting at dinner one night and we both started having these visions of like, okay, here's like how to support each other to be in our highest. Sometimes we use the word God and goddess, and some I actually call him sometimes king of the angel gods, which is because I'm like, he just blows me away on so many levels. And I'm like, you're not, the word God feels odd in a way because it's whatever the culture, but it's like you're an angel, you're a king, you're all these things. But we had these visions of like, okay, so he's standing behind my left shoulder and holding and supporting me there. And then I had this vision of like, I'm standing in front of him with my hand on his heart. And there's something that happens when you're not trying to be who you think another person wants you to be. And you really get to open to what's here in a responsible and conscious way. So I'm not complaining, but I may say like, oh, something doesn't feel good in this moment, or I'm wanting something deeper, or I'm having a hard time connecting. And I think that is the doorway to then lead into these soulful spiritual experiences that we can have with each other, where that intimacy builds and that sense of like, oh my God, I'm known on every level builds. And then we get to keep bringing that back into our daily living, our parenting, if we're parents, and our lovemaking. So it's so multidimensional in that way.
Amen. That's beautiful. Yeah. And even being open to receiving feedback, like you talked about at the beginning of the show.
Yes.
Most of us are, been so conditioned by retribution or being bad girls, bad boys. Our parents, our Catholic priests, our, nuns, that hit us with something on our fingers. It just, we especially sex and money being so taboo. It's bad to talk about. It's bad to want it. It's bad to desire. It's bad to have pleasure. So you shut those parts of yourself, then you're not even open to receiving it. So when you have a sexual trauma or repression, and that shuts you down, then, oh my gosh, the ripple effect, how it impacts your children, how it impacts your future self, your future partners, it's
And we
really
can heal together, I mean, there are things that I think we need to see professionals for and work through. We can't always just do it in our partnerships, but the more conscious, the more loving we are, the more we can actually heal some of those old wounds together. And there's nothing, I think, more precious than that.
I love that. Yeah. To be able to have the mirror and being both. And it does take two to tango, right? If one
Yeah.
partner is healing, this is a great next question for you, what you tell women or men. If one partner is doing all the healing and the work, and the other one is kind of just, we'll say, for lack of a better term, just kind of complacent, apathetic, are they going to stay together? Or what do you tell the partner who's doing the work what to do or how to be in that situation?
Yeah. I mean, oftentimes I think that is a rift that happens. And what I tell the partner who's doing the work is to bring their most open-hearted self to the table, right? The one that's not blaming, not shaming, not attacking, that's actually expressing desire and longing, and really being vulnerable and honest to see, is the other person willing to come on this journey with me? Because if you're blaming, shaming, attacking, or any of that, and your partner shuts down, you don't actually know if that partner would be willing if you brought your conscious self. And I would venture to say that in most relationships, most people are not bringing their conscious selves when they are shut down or triggered or struggling, right? And so it takes a lot to get to the point where, like you said, you can actually know yourself and witness yourself and communicate consciously. But unless we're doing that, I've seen people show up very differently when one person spoke to them beratingly and one person spoke to them with a sense of, hey, I know you're capable of this. And so I'm going to speak into what I see you capable of, as opposed to cutting you down for the things that are painful.
1,000%. Yeah. And having just been fresh, off my divorce, or recognizing my father, mother wounding, my ancestral stuff, and, reading the book Conscious Uncoupling, and the spiritual divorce actually in some ways was even more powerful for me, because I recognized I married all my wounding.
Yes.
And this soul contract ended exactly as it was supposed to, because we were meant to help each other up level into our next relationship. And the average human has 3 monogamous relationships, or polyamorous, however you want to look at that, over their lifetime. The whole till death do us part thing was a construct that, at least I grew up with that construct, and now I'm blissfully recognizing that that's not a rule I play by,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of constructs we have to remember that we're wrestling with in this consciousness. And really it comes back to what you said about know thyself and what do you really want, and being as grounded in your consciousness as possible.
Yeah. And I like that point. I mean, we do, especially now that we're living longer, we are growing and becoming new people. And sometimes we grow together. And if we are, I believe, and so my ex and I, we all went to Hawaii with our kid and my new partner in the spring. And, it wasn't perfect, as nothing ever will be, but, we all get along, and we are all trying, right, or doing our best to be loving and conscious and never speak, ill of each other in front of our kid and all those things. And so I believe that we can leave or transition a relationship into a next format, or whatever you want to call it, right, with
That's
love. And I won't paint a, rainbows and butterflies picture and say that my ex and I never had hard times. I mean, it took us a couple years, I would say, before we actually really wanted to spend time together again.
Mm-hmm.
But, we now support each other, and we can see, like, oh, we are co-parenting this child together. And it's just so wild, right? It's like, of course, we are co-parenting this child together. And that other form of relationship didn't work for us, but this one does.
Well, and that's the age of Aquarius, right? We're wanting more deep, meaningful relationships, authentic, right?
Yeah.
No more masks. We talked about the masks earlier. And all of us are vibrational frequencies that are changing. Like I joked in a post today, this is my 5-year anniversary. And I feel like people are seeing my 3rd iteration of me, which means this is not a relaunch per se, but just kind of a new season. If I had seasons of my show, this would be season 3 of Magdalena Grace, which that wasn't what I called myself when I launched this podcast. So I'm like shedding. This is the year of the snake, right? We're shedding layers upon layers of that which no longer serves us.
Yeah. Yeah. And why not? Right. I mean, the other thing that I talk about with many people in relationships is how we can hold each other inside these boxes of, I know this is who you are, versus actually allowing each other to grow. And if we don't allow each other to grow, then usually at one point someone gets really tired of being put in a box and tries to break out of it in some way or another, or feels resentful and just not alive anymore. And then the person we were attracted to, is no longer the person we're in relationship with. So yeah, I think when two people can be on the same team together in a relationship and really ask the question, well, actually, I'll say even from dating, I have people ask the question, like, what is the highest good for this connection here for both of us? Is it you're going to be my tennis partner, or you're going to be a muse for me, or you're going to, invite me into a spiritual practice that I never knew about? Or are we going to be lovers or long-term partners? We don't know. But if we can stay open to that question, then we can see versus trying to put something in a box. And same with our partners, right? Like, who are we becoming, and continuing to be a team together where I want you to grow and you want me to grow. And we're not holding each other's wings, down and saying like, don't leave me, because I'm not okay on my own. We, learning to find that inner sovereignty where we know I love you like crazy. Maybe I even want to be with you forever. And I am okay over here. No matter what happens.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I love that. And I want to touch a little bit on I believe it was your second book, Keeping Relationships Alive in Power and Pleasure, A Man's Guide to Becoming a Confident and Satisfied Lover and Leader.
That was
Do
the
you
first
have,
one.
oh, your first one? Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to share a couple tips on how men, what they would find in that book, and just simply, even if not reading it, how to become a confident and satisfied lover and leader for the men in the audience.
Yeah. So Power and Pleasure, that was the name of that book. And then the tagline, like you just said, and it's a compilation of, I think 10 to 15 of the Man Alive podcasts and the transcripts. And so I went through and chose some of my favorite episodes. I think one piece that I would suggest, this could be for any human, but men in particular, if you haven't learned to attune to other people, or if you haven't learned to feel another person in their responses and their reactions without taking it personally, that is a huge doorway into more love and more connection and more intimacy. And then ultimately, oftentimes more pleasure and more sex, because there is a way where I hear so many women, again, and this is a heterosexual context, but for those people who are in heterosexual dynamics, I hear so many women say that they don't feel heard, or they don't feel understood, or they don't feel loved or seen for who they are. And that is not what has somebody want to open their body and open their heart and open their soul. And I don't know about you, but I'm in my perimenopausal years, and the body stuff is hard. And so if you don't have the heart and soul connection as the body stuff starts to go all wonky, there's not a lot of intimacy happening there. So I think learning to attune is a beautiful thing, taking things less personally, and also learning to receive, because there are a lot of men who identify as nice guys and givers, and they're trying to give and please, but then they leave themselves, and there's nobody kind of home over here to relate with, and they're not necessarily receiving, which means the whole cycle gets cut off.
Yeah, you're going to be giving from an empty cup, and then it's going to feel fake, inauthentic, and I don't know, it's going to start to, I think there's resentment that starts to build.
Just going to say, yes, resentment builds, because then you're like, why am I not getting anything? But so I would say, check yourself and see, am I open to actually receiving too?
Beautiful. Which Mary Magdalene has taught me. One of my favorite mantras with her is, I am a magnificent receiver. I am a magnificent receiver. I am a magnificent receiver, because if you don't believe that and then embody it, you block your blessings, you block your health, your wealth. Because if you can't receive money, which is, as you and I know, as women, it's the womb is the bank. That's where the money and the receptivity of, even in sex.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
The creation. Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing a lot more talking, and I'm hosting a women's retreat in September, which I'll talk about in a little bit, where we're really wanting to help women, because we've been shut down, and a lot of us have thought, nope, men have to make more money than us, because that's just how it is. So then we block our receptivity for all this abundance, whether it's money or health or relationships. It's all the same thing. It's all energy.
Yeah.
You got to be receptive.
I love that.
And any other tip you want to give about the guide, Confident, Satisfied Lover and Leader?
I mean, one of the things I talked about in my book, Honest Sex, that dovetails is that when we start to expand the definition of sex to A, not just be genitals, and B, not just be even physical, right? That there is, I call it 4-dimensional sex, that there is the physical, emotional, spiritual, energetic, right? And so when you start to learn to connect with all of these dimensions, again, it becomes much more intimate, much more soulful, and these, wild and beautiful healings happen. And then there's a bond that gets created between two people that is pretty unshakable. I mean, you could choose, right? You can choose to shift into a different kind of partnership, but usually there's so much love that you get to choose from that loving place, as opposed to something breaks apart or falls apart, or somebody gets angry and, their little kid has a tantrum, like little internal children, right? So learning to connect on all of these different levels allows us to be more loved, and also to give more love. And I think it allows us to give more back to our community, to our children, if we have them, because then we're more fed and nourished.
1,000%. Yeah, I love it. You're speaking my language, because I'm actually in my Kundalini, like, next level training with my yogi certification. And there's a book called The Art of Making Sex Sacred. And it's, when people hear sex, like you said, they think of genitals, but it's actually pranic life force energy. It's like, it's our foundation for life. It's what helped us be created.
Totally. That's awesome. I love that. My next book vision has been after honest sex. I was like, maybe I'll do sacred sex, but at least there's some out there already. So that's great.
Do it. It's ancient yogic wisdom. It's Mary Magdalene and Yeshua. It's nothing new, but you have your channeled version of it, and I'll have you back on the show.
Thanks.
So speaking of that, really quickly, this is something I'm doing every hour on this day only, because it's Mary Magdalene Day. Here's the Divine Feminine Oracle deck with our sister Mary Magdalene on the cover. So I'm going to see who wants to come through during your show. Shana, sorry.
I have a reminder when you're done with this of something you need to announce.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's see who wants to speak to us. Oh, wow. She came to me so many times during my journey of deciding to divorce. Fatima, she's the mother of Islam, the mother of the Imams. So she is all about love is my lineage and gratitude is my religion. That's her mantra. So I'm going to read that one more time. Love is my lineage and gratitude is my religion. Her story is deep and profound. She's just a beautiful divine mother. So if you haven't checked her out, look her up.
Love that.
And study her story. She actually defended, this is perfect, not surprising that she came through during this, because she was a defender of her father and she was a defender of men.
Yeah.
And I just want to put a plug out there for our brothers. We love you. We know you've been carrying this patriarchal bullshit in your bones, in your souls, in your spirits, and in your hearts. And that's what's being broken down now, and fighting and holding on with the war and the economy and the government, and all of these masks are coming down by us even having this conversation. We're helping spread the message that men don't have to do it all by themselves. Women don't have to feel unseen, unheard, unsafe. We can come together, right?
We really can. Yeah.
And I know what you're saying. I remember what I was going to announce, but I'll do announcements really quick, and then we'll close with a great question that I finished with all of my first time guests. So big news today for Healthy and Wealthy and Wise. I was named in the top 10, lucky number 8, as we go into Lionsgate. I thought that was pretty cool. The 8th best psychedelic podcast of 2025. So just want to say thank you to those who voted. Thank you to my viewers for spreading the word of health, wealth, and expanded consciousness is what I'm really most passionate about in this show. And to be able to have that, just super humbled and grateful, and just a great reminder, if you enjoyed the show today, for both of our sakes and for the sake of relationships everywhere and men and women who are struggling in relationship with it, I believe is probably a good percentage of people. Please share this episode. And then if you have a desire, especially women, unfortunately, I don't have anything for men just yet, but there's a women's retreat on the 9/9 portal, September 8th through the 10th. Me and my last guest, Monty Shaw, we're going to be holding a container right after the September full moon. 7th is a full moon eclipse full moon. So talk about a total eclipse of the heart month. September is going to be fucking intense. Just throwing it out there for y'all. Every eclipse has eclipsed my heart. And we're going to have a 9/9 portal right in the middle of the 8th and the 10th, and just loving on all of you goddesses, helping you awaken the inner Shakti, help you rise in your divine feminine goddess self. Lots of Kundalini yoga, cacao, dancing, talk about sex. We're going to have a kink expert come in and have a conversation, real, raw, vulnerable container for women. The early bird discount expires July 31st. So if you want to sign up or just learn more, go to magdalenagrace.com. And then if you're local, and if you see this show by the end of July 23rd, I'm doing a free giveaway if you're local, and you comment below and hit the share button. I will put you in a drawing to attend my Abundance Blueprint workshop here in San Diego on Friday. And if you're not local, I'll throw you in the drawing and give you a free abundance alchemy session to help you alchemize whatever shadow you carrying that's holding you back into the light, whatever that looks like in your health, wealth, and expanded consciousness. So those are my quick announcements, other than hopefully you can come back for more episodes. I've got 2 more guests today, one on divorce and the conversation of divorce in this new age. I thought I would bring you in first, so then we can talk about the other side. And divorce to bliss. And then my Tantra guest with Scotty O will round out my big Mary Magdalene celebration day. So is there anything else?
Well, I just wanted to say one note, which is that I did not say this in the beginning, which is, that everything I do is a fit for people of any gender and any sexual preference. I tend to work with heterosexual couples because I have been an ally for men. And then as the woman who works with them, right, there is this weaving and translating and things like that. But I apologize for not saying that in the beginning.
Yeah, no, and yeah, it's all perfect. And I will, that's what I was just going to segue to, is where can people find you? I'll make sure I put all of this in the show notes as well.
Yeah. So I have a quiz. What's keeping you from the best love and sex of your life after 40? If you're under 40, it actually still applies for you too. But you can go to my website, shanajamescoaching.com/quiz. I also have a way that you can get my book, Honest Sex, a free copy. If you go to shanajames.com/free, that's what it is. So either of those are great ways to dive in a little bit, and you can just, reach out and find me. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and all the places. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Yeah, and I believe our show together, on your show, should be released sometime in the next couple months. So super excited about that. And then my final question for you, since this is your first visit, and I'll definitely have you back. Yeah. When you hear the phrase healthy and wealthy and wise, what does it mean for you?
Good question. Healthy, wealthy, and wise. The image that just came to me is like my older self sitting in nature and with this sense of peace. A sense of peace, a sense of being a part of something bigger, of the oneness of all of it. Knowing that I am loved and loving my loved ones. It's interesting, the wealthy part, so much more than money. And in this image, it's like, oh, it doesn't even matter what I own or possess. But that's probably a block and something that I could look into with you. So healthy, wealthy, wise. I don't know, just, a bigger sense of the consciousness of who we actually are, so we can have this wealth of love and connection and relationships and a deeper knowing, so that we're not trying to push each other off the planet. And
Beautiful, beautiful.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your work and who you are and how you serve men. I've lost so many men to suicide and addiction, and we've got to have more people like you on the planet standing for men to take off the masks and to carry them to a place of true sovereignty and compassion, and that sacred union of the feminine and the masculine is so beautiful. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. I really do believe that it's like that has been one of my callings, is to reduce the rate of suicide for men. And I think, being someone who can stand up and say, I believe in men and I love men and I want men to, be loved and understood too, feels like an important part of this lifetime.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank
Bridge to
you.
future generations. All right, everyone. Thank you so much again for your support, helping me be in the top 10 of the best psychedelic podcasts this year. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, which will be in about 10 minutes or 15 minutes, here's to your best health, your best wealth, by trusting your best wisdom within. And of course, with our topic today, creating the best relationships in your beautiful, delicious, abundant life. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.